So I'm Isa. I'm an international student. I'm originally from the Netherlands, but I moved to London in September to study English and creative writing. So I always loved London. My grandmother is British, so I was always kind of like introduced to the country. And the Netherlands is really small, so I wasn't used to like big cities. And so when I went to London for my first time, I remember I loved it so much. And so I always had an idea of moving abroad. And London came to mind, and I visited and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna study here. I'm living in London for 4 months. I'm really enjoying it here because there's a variety of people, and you will also find that in the Netherlands, in the bigger cities. You can take the tube and you're in a different area, and I feel like in the Netherlands you don't really have that as much as you have that here. And also I want to do film, and the film industry is pretty much alive here. And so that's why I wanted to move to London as well. I always liked writing, and I think I got an idea because I was more of a storyteller than I was maybe a writer. And when I tried to look for courses, I found creative writing and I found screenwriting. I did more research on screenwriting, and I was like, yeah, this is something I can see myself do. And especially like when I did more research on filmmaking as well, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I was probably like 8 when I first visited London. We're visiting family in England, and my mom wanted to show us London, so we went to London for a weekend. So we went on the open bus, and we did like a tour, which was really nice because it was like super small, so the city feels even bigger than it already is. I just remember I felt like it was just very magical. I just loved the city in general. And it wasn't even about like shopping or stuff like that. It was just the energy that I felt at the time, and it's still there even years later, and I'm now living here. I still feel that energy of excitement and just new ideas. So I do feel like London is a kind of like a country on its own. It's very different than England. So London compared to the Netherlands in general, I think, well, I guess it's a bit hard because the Netherlands is not super big, but it has a variety of different cities. So if I could compare it to Amsterdam, I think that would be a bit better. I feel like it's more towards film than Amsterdam maybe is, or I've never really felt it there. And I think it's also more my perception of the city. I don't really have that with Amsterdam. I don't really feel that energy. So my first weekend here, when my parents left, I felt like I made a huge mistake. I really wanted to go back. But after that weekend, I think it was Monday, I went out alone. And I think that helped me a lot because I felt like, okay, I can do this one day. I can go out alone and I'm not feeling like I need someone else. Then my whole 4 years is going to be fine. And after I started meeting more people, it was just, I didn't really felt like I was missing home that much. Of course, like I love my family and friends, but that's not for me like enough because you can still call and you can still go back for like a vacation. It wasn't like enough for me to like temporarily go back and live again in the Netherlands. The way I've been networking and socializing, I think, so before I went to London, I found an app on TikTok which is called Geneva. And I got into a group chat with girls from London, and I kind of messages a lot of different people, and I found a bunch of girls and I started to message on Instagram, and it was really fun. And then we all kind of like already said like, oh, if we're in London we have to meet, because this was all girls that were moving to London for university. So that was really exciting for me because I already kind of had a few people that I could meet once I was there. Then I arrived and everybody was already kind of busy because my university started later in October, so everybody already kind of knew people from the university, the people that I met online, and I didn't have that yet. So that was maybe a bit of a bummer, but also I think it learned me a lot because things don't always go as fast as you think it will. Sometimes you have to go through that uncomfortable phase and like accept that you're alone for maybe a few days. But after that, I think when I accepted that and did things alone, that's when I think it all moved really fast, because I met people from a university, got a really nice friend group, and all of a sudden I was kind of like overwhelmed with how many people I could see during the week. And I started meeting people from the app. I started making friends on Bumble, and it was stuff like that that made me now I have like quite a few people that I can go up to and be like, do you want to hang out today? And so yeah, I'm not lonely here at all. I don't have that. But in the beginning it was quite lonely. I really like studying here because I do an arts degree and I'm now in my foundation year, so we learn a lot about arts in general, and I do feel like London is it's all about art, and you can go to different places and learn different things. You go to a lot of museums and galleries. So studying here for me is very eye-opening, and yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm really enjoying it. I've been to the National Gallery. I really like that. I've been to the British Museum with my friend, and I was there a few weeks ago. I really like that one because they have Asia as like a continent, and they have a lot of different like clothes from there, and they also have the medieval part of history. Yeah, I really like that. I love seeing the different types of clothes, and also how they used to make them, like stitching it on, but also how they found like how they made fabric, and how beautiful it was as well. It felt very expensive, so I like that a lot. My best friend, she used to do a study in fashion, and she loved making her own clothes, so we were talking a lot about that, about like different types of scripts and what type of clothes would fit in. So yeah, we did a lot of like brainstorming on that, which I found was really fun. I think it was me, when I was younger, I was always telling my friends stories, and I just made them up, and I was telling my friends stories, and I didn't really realize you could do like screenwriting. I knew there was writing, but I didn't really understand what screenwriting was. I researched it, or I came across it online, and I was like, okay, I need to do more research on this. Watched a bunch of videos, and then I knew that I really liked fantasy movies, and I felt like I needed to explore more genres on like storytelling, stuff like that. And so I tried to write like a fantasy script, which I really enjoyed. It was hard because I'm not even finished with it. I'm not even close, but I really enjoyed the process, and I think that made me feel like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to like move forward and try to do a degree and learn more. I don't really think I have a favorite director at this point, but I really like Avatar, the second one. Although I heard a lot of different perspectives of people that are Native American have said a lot about the culture that is like stolen. The writer and director, they took a lot of aspects of different cultures, native cultures in particularly Africa and again Native America, and then put it in a movie and basically made a whole new native group from a different world, but give them these traits from like actual native people from our world. There weren't actually a lot of Native Americans that played the natives. I think I can understand how frustrating it can be. I think that people have to like be careful what they imitate. I also like sci-fi. When I was younger, I loved Star Wars. I'm not super fan of Marvel movies, but I think Black Panther, and I really like Shang-Chi as well. Because I think what I like about those movies is with Shang-Chi, there's also a mythology story about it, and I really enjoyed that. I'm wanting to do more research this year on mythology and history and kind of like make a fantasy story about that, but I think I'm so new to it. I also need to understand more of the maybe craft that goes into screenwriting in general, because it's so different than just opening a Word doc and start writing a story or a novel. There's a lot of rules to make even a script readable for someone. So I think that is kind of like what's making it a bit harder. It's not just, okay, I'm going to do research, I'm going to write a story. You also have to understand how you need to write a script. So I really like Japanese mythology. It has a lot of different stories about like different legends, different creatures that they believed live or used to live and still live now. Also African mythology is really interesting. I think that is maybe you don't hear a lot about that. You do hear a lot about like Greek mythology and maybe Asian mythology. You don't hear a lot about African mythology, which I think I want to do more research on, because I think it is very close to maybe how we used to live as well, as like millions of years ago, or like hundreds of years ago, how we used to live. So when I was in high school, I didn't really believe in superstitions. I was very much like, I need to have evidence. Maybe more of my belief was based on science, because I knew it was like visible, and I could search it up, and like the evidence was there. But then when I got older, especially 2 years ago, I like made kind of like a spiritual journey. I started to be really into spirituality, and with that came mythology. And so when I started to really enjoy the stories, and I just really liked it. But also there was kind of like a history. It was also tied to history, so I really liked that. And yeah, that made me more, so spirituality made me more interested in mythology.
Wednesday, 500,000 workers will be on strike. 500,000 teachers, civil servants.
To be fair, Dutch people are quite maybe a bit on like evidence. I don't know. Yeah, we're not very into superstitions, I feel like. Because to be fair, a lot of mythology comes from like Celtic mythology and Greek mythology, Irish mythology. I did a lot of research on a lot of like dragons and like fairies in different cultures as well, because they're not only, because I feel like they're very westernized. There are a lot in Europe, when there are also stories about fairies, maybe in a different way, but from other countries. A lot of people believe there are mermaids, which, especially in Mexico, I think, and also in a lot of countries in Africa. To be fair, I don't really like the ocean. I have a big fear of ocean. But there's this story about when your name, or when you're called into the ocean by like a beautiful figure or beautiful person, you're not supposed to go into the ocean, because that means kind of like they're trying to trap you. And there's a lot of stories about this, which I guess take it or leave it. Like there's no evidence if it's true, but I like it because there are a lot of people that believe in that. So actually now I'm reading a spiritual book, Journey of Souls. It's about the afterlife, which is what I find really interesting. I don't know if I'm going to use it for a fantasy script, but just even like different styles of writing is something I find very interesting. So in that book specifically, it's a lot about hypnosis. It's not particularly tied to psychology, but the writer of that book is a psychologist, and he did do hypnosis on people to kind of like go into their mind and see if they can have memories from their past life, which again it's not proven, it's just his research on it. But I do find that very interesting, and that made a lot of impact on me, the mind of people and how that works and how far that goes as well. So when I was younger, I was super scared of seeing anything close to the spiritual realm, ghosts or anything. I was super scared of that, so I think I blocked it out a lot. I was like, no, I don't want to see that. But then when I got older, I was more open to it, but I didn't want to have ghosts in my room. I'm not interested in that. I did hear a lot my name when I used to fall asleep, so when you're still conscious but on the verge of being unconscious or going to sleep. I used to hear my name a lot, which I found very weird, but I didn't do anything with that. But not super, I don't have anything that, some people have a ghost in their house and they have a crazy story about that. I don't really have that. It's what you believe in, and maybe people that are more religious will say, oh, this is like a calling from a god or Allah, or another maybe person that believes in science will say, oh, this is just yourself saying your name in your sleep. But it can be anything. Yeah, to be fair, I don't know what it is, but it felt very... It did felt very spiritual. I don't know what it was, but it didn't felt like I was in harm or anything like that. I believe more in the universe than I do in any physical or person. I just believe that, especially if you look at our galaxy, I think it's so special the way it looks, and our Milky Way. It's just outside of this world and outside of our planet and anything. It doesn't feel like our world would be as scientifical as maybe some other people believe. So I'm spiritual. I like things that maybe aren't always proven. I'm not too far with it. I know a lot of people, or some people, are very far with it. I do want to stay with my feet on the ground, because that's where I am right now, but I do like spirituality a lot. So I do believe in reincarnation. I find it a beautiful thing. And also I think what I like about spirituality, and I don't believe in like heaven or hell, and I think what I like about spirituality is it's so like open to all, I guess, no matter who you are. And I like the idea of if we're passing, then we go to like the spiritual realm where we're kind of guided by our guides or whoever that may be. I don't know. In his book, he talks a lot about like, it is an organized like organization, and it's very calming, and it's not like you're not forced to do anything. And it talks a lot about our different lives we have and the things we learn from it, which I find very beautiful. And I think that's the reason why I believe in it. I don't have any proof of it, but I find it very peaceful to believe in that. I think we can coexist and have a different opinion on what the afterlife is. Because to be fair, we all wouldn't know until that time comes. But for me, it wouldn't make me feel good if I would think that if I pass, I will only see like black and that's it. Or I would not even like, just the idea of me evaporating in air just doesn't make sense to me. So I think, yeah, that wouldn't make me happy. If money was an issue. Future goals. I think I would want to travel a lot and do a lot of writing on that. Of course, do maybe a short movie about the human experience. I think that would be very interesting to see how different people live, and how people experience Earth and like the things we were meant to do here. Yeah, I would definitely travel more. I think I would do Europe first because I'm of course born in Europe, so I would go to like different places, like France, maybe Spain. Although I've been to a lot of countries in Great Britain, I still would do maybe Ireland, go there. Europe first, then maybe like Asia, go to there, and then Africa, like also America, Mexico. Yeah, my parents are very supportive. They always felt like if it was something I wanted to do, then I should do it. Yeah, they were very supportive about it, encouraging actually. Of course, with the Brexit and everything, it's going to be harder for me to stay. I don't really see myself living in the Netherlands, so I don't see myself not live here. I don't know how I will stay here, but yeah, I don't see myself go back. It is like a closing door, you know, especially if you have family that lives here and you've come to England for such a long time. It kind of feels like they're just closing the door for you. I do feel like I'm in a very privileged position. So there are a lot of people that maybe have it harder than me that really need to go to England for some reason, for safety or whatever. And for them, it's much, much harder than it is for me. It's very sad. So to be fair, I'm not super keen on Amsterdam. I'm from the northern part of Holland, so that's more like Rotterdam and Utrecht. So I'm from Gouda, which is between those cities. I grew up in a very nice neighborhood where, again, everybody kind of knew each other. It's a very small city. It's very old Dutch. A lot of people know each other because it's not super big. Yeah, I'm very happy with the way I grew up and where it was. Like having water fights in summer, that's because, again, it was like a neighborhood, so there were different places you could run to, hide, and it was just, we did it with the whole, like all the kids in the neighborhood, so it was just a very nice, like collective, like joy. So I'm not super familiar with Amsterdam, but if I would go to Amsterdam, I would definitely like look more outside of the central, because I know that is really nice places with the canals and everything, and the very authentic Dutch houses and like the cheese shops and stuff like that. So I would definitely do that. Yeah, it is a very nice space, but for me, I think a lot of English people maybe have that with London. It doesn't really feel like your own country because it's so different than maybe what you're used to. So Amsterdam does really look like the Netherlands, but again, the canals and the houses, but the like image it has is very different because a lot of people know it from like the weed and the like district and stuff like that. So it's very, for me, it doesn't really feel like I'm in the Netherlands when I'm there, and it's not my favorite city at all. If I would go to the Netherlands and go for a day, I would go to Rotterdam for sure. I felt like it was that way for a really long time because I went to Amsterdam with my high school school. I visited a lot with my mom. And maybe when I was a kid, I liked it because it was like the most accessible big city that it was accessible for me. But now that I'm older enough, I think I've seen more from the world that I had before. It's not really my place. It's just, again, the energy is not really for me. What do I like about London? I like the parks, nature. Maybe not a lot of people would say that, but I like the parks. I like the buildings as well, the architecture of the buildings. I like the fact that you can go into the city and being a very busy place and being a bit overstimulated, and then you can go to like a more quieter space, because here we have the wetlands, so it's really quiet. I like that. You have a variety of places you can go to. I think university is kind of making me, and also I'm starting my job next week, so I think I'm a bit in that, because of Christmas break, I'm still in that motion of, okay, I need to like settle in again, and that takes a lot of my mental space. And also I read books, so that is also my research and learning different writing styles. So I'm more doing that right now, and then when I think I'm more comfortable and I have maybe a bit of a story, I can start writing again.